What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some very rare footage of my own gameplay in the Open Master League, since for the most part I am a free-to-play player and I would generally prefer to spend my resources elsewhere. However, Melmetal got a buff this season with Thundershock dealing more damage, and it is one of the, well, it's basically the only legendary slash mythical Pokemon that's very easy to obtain XL candies for, so I was actually able to build one. Now, I did of course showcase Melmetal in the Fantasy Cup a few days ago, so I was trying to look for a different focal point for today's video, and I decided to go with Tyrantrum since a few weeks ago during the Wild Area event I was able to catch a 100% IV very high level Tyrantrum in the wild, so I figured I don't have to power it up too much and maybe we can just shut down Ho-Oh with this Pokemon, since it does either resist or double resist Ho-Oh's typical moveset. Now unfortunately for me, since I don't really play the Open Master League at all, I don't really know what teams I'm going to be facing, and as it turns out a lot of people like to run Ho-Oh in the lead rather than in the back as a closer, so I just wasn't able to align my Tyrantrum to very many Ho-Oh at all, which was obviously not very good. And then as well, if I didn't see Ho-Oh, like, Tyrantrum was just completely useless. You can see I'm running it with Earthquake. I did not want to run Earthquake. Crunch is definitely the move that you need because you just need a cheaper energy charge move than the Meteor Beam, which is a great move, but of course it does take a while to get there, and unfortunately I'm just really struggling with charge TMs right now. I've done a few raids over the past few days and I did use a few TMs. I got Stone Edge, which is redundant with Meteor Beam, then I got Outrage, and then went back to Stone Edge, then went back to Earthquake, and I ran out of TM. So I cycled through everything aside from Crunch, which is really frustrating, and you will see in these battles Crunch definitely would have helped me to win a few more battles than I did, so that is definitely disappointing. But I will say Melmetal and Gyarados did actually put in a ton of work. They basically had to carry Tyrantrum because it was completely useless, and I would recommend as a cheap team you could run Melmetal and Gyarados together and just run a different dragon type in the back that isn't called Tyrantrum, and you'd have pretty decent success. But anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What is the most useless Pokemon you've ever powered up to level 50? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Melmetal into Ho-Oh. So this is the target for my Tyrantrum. Unfortunately, it is in the lead, so I'm going to swap into my Gyarados straight away, and we're able to bait out a Xerneas. Now, this is where, obviously, running Gyarados in that safe swap position is going to be good if you've got a Dragon type in the back, because we are on Dragon Breath. This is not a great matchup for us. However, it is much better than if we were running, say, a Dragonite or any other kind of Dragon type Pokemon that's going to take super effective damage from this Xerneas. Now, we're going for Aqua Tail. Number 2, the opponent will start to use a shield, because at this point, honestly, I might be able to flip this matchup here if we can land another Aqua Tail. Now, honestly, I don't know how much damage we're going to take from this Xerneas. Also, I'm realizing, well, at the time I didn't realize this, but this is a severely under-leveled Xerneas. The thing is, with the Open Master League, like, you will, unless you're like really at the high ranks in the Elo bracket, like, you are not going to face like level 50 Pokemon all the time, and we're actually able to barely not flip that matchup there. But because the opponent swaps out, this is perfectly fine. We're aligning the Tyrantrum here. The opponent goes for a Brave Bird. Brave Bird still does like nearly 50% of our HP, and since we're not running Crunch, I'm not going to make it to a charge view. So instead, we swap into our Melmetal, catch the next Brave Bird. They are now quad debuffed in their defense. We get the Thundershock farm down. The opponent's going to come in with Necrozma here, and this is still going to be a pretty awkward matchup for us. We're going to go straight for Superpower here. Superpower, not going to do that much damage, and each time we throw it, we will unfortunately debuff our attack and our defense by one stage. But we're just going to wait for the opponent to try and make a catch. They go for the catch there. I'm now going to swap into my Tyrantrum here as the opponent throws a charge through straight away. They go for the Sunsteel Strike, meaning I can go straight for a Superpower, and from this range, Superpower is enough damage to take out Necrozma, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there into the next battle, and I will say that was basically the best thing that Tyrantrum did, which is pretty embarrassing because it still struggled up against the Ho-Oh since I didn't have a cheaper energy charge move. But either way, into the next battle, we're going to see a Rhyperior here, and this honestly is a bit of a core breaker. However, since we are running double Iron Bash, it's not that bad for us because I can land 2 of them, and if the opponent stays in this matchup here, I will just go for another double Iron Bash. I will grab the first shield from the opponent, and if they commit to a full farm down, I'm going to make it to another one here, so the opponent has to double shield. they're going to be obviously down 2 shields now, but they do have a ton of energy. So at this point, I realize Tyrantrum is useless, so I might as well just fully sacrifice it. They go for Breaking Smite. We actually tanked that reasonably well, I'm not going to lie. We're going to let the next one go through. They go for Breaking Smite once again. We snipe with the Gyarados, and the opponent comes in with a Togekiss, so it's not really looking too good for us here. However, we do have a 2 shield advantage, so I'm going to fire off the Aquatail here. We will need 3 Aquatails to take out this Togekiss, unfortunately, meaning we're basically going to come out of this matchup with very minimal HP and as well, like, no energy whatsoever. However, we are going to shield, we are going to fight here. We don't know what's in the back. It could be something like a Groudon for all we know. We're going to go for another Aquatail here, and Aquatail will be enough damage to get rid of the Togekiss. And they've actually got a Mudshot Garchomp, and this is one of the best things we could possibly see. However, if they are on Sand Tomb, it will get very dicey, and the opponent is on Sand Tomb, so that is not ideal for us in the slightest. Gonna fire off an Aquatail, I'm then gonna fire off 2 Dragon Breaths, swap, and I'm able to catch a Sand Tomb onto my Tyrantrum. That is huge for me. The opponent does undercharge it, however. They get the farm down, but I'm still able to Dragon Breath, farm them down with the Gyarados, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there into next battle. We're going to see a Dialga in the lead. So honestly, don't really know how to play this matchup here. It's a bit awkward for us because if I go for back-to-back superpowers, then, well, the opponent probably going to shield one of them, in which case 2 superpowers won't quite get the KO. And now, since I've debuffed my attack and my defense, Roar of Time does huge damage there, but we can still fire off superpower number 2. The opponent actually doesn't bother shielding, so that's okay with me. We're now going to swap into our Gyarados, and the opponent has a Mewtwo. So at this point, I know I can live a Side Strike. It's going to do quite a lot of damage here, but I'm going to no-shield the first charge move. I'm going to fire off the Crunch. I probably could get away with just going for an Aquatail bait. However, Crunch does have a chance to debuff their defense. However, we do not get that debuff. So at this point, I'm thinking, you know what, Tyrantrum might be able to go for a huge Dragon Tail farm down, and surely the energy is going to be useful into anything they've got in the back. So we are going to wait for the opponent to throw. They throw straight away, so I'm assuming they're going to do the exact same thing once they reach the next Side Strike. So we're going to swap as we reach a Meteor Beam there, catch the Charge Move onto my Melmetal, Side Strike gets the KO. We're going to go for the Dragon Tail farm down, but they've got Rhyperior in the back. Now we are running Earthquake. I might as well full send it, and Earthquake does decent damage, but actually not enough damage, and they're able to just fully mud slap, farm down Tyrantrum, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG to opponent there into next battle. We can see a Kyogre in the lead. So we're going to stay in this matchup here. It's not that bad for us since we are on Thundershock. Going to fire off a Superpower, then fire off one more Thundershock, swap into my Gyarados, and I'm able to catch what should be a Surf here. It is the Surf. Honestly, I can't remember the counts with Kyogre since, of course, Surf does cost more energy this season. But yeah, that was definitely not enough, definitely not enough energy for a Thunder or an Origin Pulse or Blizzard or anything like that. So didn't need to shield, and we do also bait out a Togekiss, which is great for us, because Tyrantrum, despite being a Rock-type Pokemon, is also a Dragon-type Pokemon, and it would definitely struggle. We're now going to come back in with Melmetal, and we're able to reach a double Iron Bash as the opponent tried to throw on good timing. We're able to grab a shield from the opponent. At this point, I'm definitely going to shield. I should be able to shield once, and then just fully Thundershock, farm them down, since the Thundershocks are doing more damage. Now, the opponent comes back in with their Kyogre. I'm going to go and fire off a Superpower, and then I'm actually going to swap into my Tyrantrum here, and the opponent's going to be running Dialga in the back. Now, I'm committing to the Earthquake. Can we reach it in time? No, Tyrantrum! Oh my god, what are you doing, bro? You needed to get to the Earthquake there. At this point, it's not looking too good for us. However, we are getting Dialga fairly low to the point where I think a Superpower will get the KO. And it does just about get the... Well, actually, it didn't get the KO there. But one more Thundershock does the job. We're now going to fire off another Superpower. However, we are debuffed. Superpower doesn't get the KO either, but we get the damage registration error. Double Iron Bash gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. That was made very difficult because Tyrantrum is just completely useless. Into next battle, we're going to see a Ho-Oh. So this time we're actually going to go for one Thundershock, then swap out, and we're able to force a CMP tie, which of course we do lose with Gyarados. However, I'm going to shield this just because they're going to triple debuff their defense. They will also have to shield in this matchup, which they're going to go for there. Although, honestly, I'm assuming Gyarados probably would just barely live a Brave Bird there, so maybe I should have just let it go. But either way, going to fire off another Aquatail into the Xerneas coming in, and you can see this one is definitely a lot more powered up. I honestly don't have a clue what CP a lot of these Pokemon do go to, so I don't know if this is level 50 or not, but either way, we're going to come back in with the Melmetal. I'm going to fire off the double Iron Bash here, just as the opponent is over farming. It actually doesn't quite get the KO there, and I think they've just farmed up to back-to-back close combats. So at this point, I'm actually just going to fully sacrifice the Melmetal and hope that Tyrantrum can beat both the Ho-Oh and whatever else is in the back. So Tyrantrum coming in, getting the Dragon Tail farm down, and the opponent is going to have a Necrozma in the back, and unfortunately we don't have Crunch once again. So at this point I'm going to shield this up here, and then I will just full send the Earthquake. I'm not going to reach 2 charge moves here, whereas if I was running Crunch, I think Crunch probably wouldn't get the KO. However, if we did get lucky and get a Crunch debuff, maybe I would have been able to take out this Necrozma here, but unfortunately we're not on Crunch. We only make it to 1 charge move. Sunsteel Strike gets the KO very easily, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG to opponent there. Into next battle, you can see Melmetal in the lead. The opponent's going to say swap into Kyogre, so this is absolutely fine with me. Going to fire off the Superpower, and then I will eventually swap into my Gyarados. So Superpower does some decent damage here, and at this point I might try and commit to a full Dragon Breath farm down. The opponent is going to fire off the Charge Move, and the opponent goes for a Thunder there, which of course would hit for double super effective damage. It would very easily one-shot us. Now at this point I could have actually gone for a full Dragon Breath farm down, and this might be a bit of a mistake. They probably would have only made it to a Surf. However, I didn't want to put myself into range where they can just fully Powder Snow farm me down, because Mamoswine with energy is very deadly up against my 2 remaining Pokemon. So instead, we preserved our health there. We're still getting up 2 Aqua Tails up against the Mamoswine, and they can overfarm, but it's not really going to help them all that much, because I think they're still 3 Powder Snows away from the next Avalanche. So we can come in with the Tyrantrum, get the Dragon Tail farm down. They're going to have Yveltal in the back, and the opponent is just going to concede the match there, and so I'm able to take that game. But honestly, they would have outpaced me to 2 charge boosts there, so it would have been kind of awkward for me. But either way, into next battle, we're going to see the opponent's going to say swap into Groudon. We're going to swap into our Gyarados here after banking a ton of energy on the Melmetal. And of course, Gyarados is going to completely wall this Groudon. I think Precipice Blaze probably is still the better move to go for, despite being double resisted, whilst Fire Punch is non-stab, and it did get buffed this season, but it is of course also resisted. So the opponent going to go for another Precipice Blaze here, but once again, I don't really want to put myself into range where we're going to get farmed down. So instead, we're going to fire off the Aqua Tail here, just play it safe. I'm not certain if I would have lived the next charge move, and they actually come in with a Necrozma. So this is a little bit awkward for me. My Tyrantrum doesn't really have any play into their team at all, so we're just going to fully sacrifice it here. There's no point shielding this. I'm not running Crunch, so I'm not going to make it to a charge move. The opponent full sends a Sunsteel Strike there, which is not ideal for us because that does just fully one-shot us. But we can now come in with the Melmetal. They're going to come in with the Palkia, and unfortunately, I can't really overfarm any more than I have done already, as we would go over 100 energy. So I'll fire off the Superpower, but now I'm actually going to shield this because we are debuffed in our defense, which isn't really ideal. But we're going to continue to overfarm, fire off another Superpower here, but Superpower going to be no shielded by the opponent. We can fire off another Superpower, but this actually won't get the KO from this range. So we swap, we clear the debuff there, but maybe I should have just stayed in. But either way, it was a bit awkward for me. I needed to clear the debuff, but there's just no way I can beat this Necrozma at this point. Dark Pulse doesn't do that much damage, but it puts us into Shadow Claw farm down range. I can farm up as much energy as I want, but each time I throw a charge move, it will debuff my stats, so unfortunately nothing we could do there, but GG's to the opponent. In the next battle, we're going to see the opponent's going to say swap into Necrozma, so this time we're going to fire off the Superpower here. Superpower going to do some decent chip damage, and now we swap into Gyarados. Now Gyarados should be able to tank any one charge move that the opponent throws. The opponent goes for Dark Pulse there. We're able to tank that fairly well, but I will need to shield the next charge move, as Dark Pulse would put us into farm down range. So at this point, I don't think Aqua Tail will be enough damage to get the KO, so I'm going to fire off the Crunch. Crunch is going to be shielded by the opponent. They swap into a Palkia, and we do just barely make it to another Crunch on the Gyarados. So Crunch is going to be no shielded. It drops their defense, which is very nice. We're now going to come in with our Tyrantrum here, as these Dragon Tails are chunking. And at this point, again, I realized like I might as well just fully sacrifice this thing. Spatial Rend gets the one shot, but we can come in with the Melmetal, get the full Thundershock farm down. They're going to come back in with the Flourishes, and things are actually looking pretty good for us, as the opponent comes in with their Pokemon, which is going to take super effective damage from the double Iron Bash instead of coming in with their Palkia. Oh, sorry, not Palkia. I think it was Necrozma in the lead, because now we don't have to debuff our stats at all, which is really nice. The opponent goes for a Moonblast there. We are going to fire off another wow, can't even speak. Another double Iron Bash. Oh my god, man. I just want to say as well, this video is coming out like a few hours later than I wanted it to. Here, what are we doing? We're baiting with a double Iron Bash. Bro, what are you doing? We've just completely thrown the game there. I thought, at least I can play it safe, like they're not going to make it to another charge move. We farm up to double Iron Bash once again, but it's a CMP tie and we lose. So that was really, really poor end game from my part, but GG's to that opponent. And I want to say, or what I was trying to say earlier was I spilt water on my keyboard, and I spent like the past few hours trying to like sort that out, but unfortunately I think I'm just gonna have to get a new keyboard, which I've already ordered, which is fine. But yeah, this is why the video is coming out a few hours later than I would have hoped to get it out. But either way, into next battle, we're gonna see the opponent's gonna say swap into a Landorus, and since Mudshot did get an energy generation nerf here, this should be a pretty comfortable matchup for us if the opponent doesn't bait with a Sandsear Stomp. And the opponent is going to double full send the Stone Edge there, meaning we can commit to a full Dragon Breath farm down, coming out with loads of energy. They're going to come in with a Rhyperior, which is definitely fine with me. We're going to fire off the Aqua Tail here. Aqua Tail is going to be shielded by the Rhyperior, but they don't swap out, so I'm able to fire off Aqua Tail number 2, dealing huge damage. We're then going to swap into Tyrantrum. I was once again looking to just fully sacrifice it. However, the opponent's actually going to bank the energy, come in with their Necrozma, fire off a Sunsteel Strike. Once again, Tyrantrum just literally doing nothing but dying. But we can come in with the Gyarados here. The reason we're coming in with Gyarados is I know that a Rock Wrecker would one-shot us, whereas they're typically only going to have resisted charge moves to throw up against my Melmetal with their Rhyperior. So Dark Pulse doesn't get the KO, so we swap into our Melmetal. The opponent fires off the charge move here, but it's just going to be a breaking swipe, and the opponent does not throw the next charge move straight away, so I'm able to go straight for double Iron Bash. Double Iron Bash gets the KO there. They come back in with Necrozma, and even a Sunsteel Strike should not be enough damage to get the KO. They actually go for Dark Pulse there. Sunsteel Strike, even though it's resisted, does do slightly more damage, but either way, Superpower gets the KO up against Necrozma, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's top over there. Into next battle, we're going to see the other form of Necrozma in the lead. So we are going to stay in this matchup. This isn't as bad just because we can fire off the double Iron Bash, which is going to be neutral damage. Unfortunately, it's not like the best move in terms of like damage per energy, but it does end up grabbing a shield from the opponent, which is kind of interesting. And the opponent baits with a Dark Pulse, which is huge for me because honestly, Moongeist Beam might even KO us, but we're now going to swap into our Gyarados, and the opponent will be able to outpace me before we do reach that crunch there. So I'm going to shield. The opponent does full send the Moongeist Beam this time around. We're going to overfarm, and the opponent makes the perfect catch there, knowing I'm probably not going to go for the crunch at that range. So they catch the Aqua Tail, which is resisted, onto their Dialga. We can now overfarm here, fire off a crunch, and crunch might even grab a shield from the opponent. It does grab the shield. It does not drop their deep. Oh no, actually it does drop their defense there. It was just very late to show the text. But we can now fire off another crunch, getting the Dialga very low. But still, we're going to have to come in with our Melmetal, just fully sacrifice it, and this time we are relying on Tyrantrum to sweep a game. So let's see, can Tyrantrum actually do something useful? They come in with the Palkia, and the opponent's actually going to swap out there. Did they bank an Aqua Tail? I'm not so sure. So at this point, we're going to shield this up as the opponent goes for a Dark Pulse. We're going to go for a full Dragon Tail farm down, coming out with the Meteor Beam loaded, and we are throwing it straight away. The opponent does not throw their energy, but it doesn't get the KO. Tyrantrum, bro, you had one job. You just needed to sweep this team, and unfortunately, it doesn't do enough damage there. If we were on Outrage, maybe that would have got the KO, but unfortunately, we weren't for that battle. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next battle, we're going to see Togekiss in the lead. The opponent safe swaps into a Mamoswine, and this is perfectly fine with me. I could swap into my Gyarados, but actually, I might as well just stay in here. We are taking resisted Powder Snow damage, so what we're going to do is shield this up here as they fire off an Avalanche, and they're going to farm up to back-to-back double Iron Bashes, so that way, if the opponent does want to shield here, well, they just have to tank another one. So the opponent actually just fully sacrifices their Shadow Mamoswine, which is fine with me. They're now going to come in with a Shadow Rhyperior. Now, this is a bit awkward for us. If I swap into my Gyarados, they will just swap out. So I'm actually going to swap into my into my Tyrantrum, and the opponent holds onto the energy, which is a little bit awkward for me, but they do swap back into Togekiss. We're going straight for Meteor Beam, and that still doesn't get the one-shot, but it's a simultaneous KO, which is maybe slightly better for us. I'm not really sure yet, but we're going to come in with our Melmetal. Once again, I realize they are probably not going to have any charge moves to throw, so instead we might as well just throw the double Iron Bash here, force the opponent to use their energy. If they go for Breaking Swipe, honestly, we're probably going to live this, and they do, which is a big mistake. Now we swap into our Gyarados. I'm basically looking to get enough Dragon Breath damage to put them into superpower range, but we're actually able to make it to an Aquatail anyways, and of course up against a Shadow Rhyperior, Aquatail gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So GG to opponent there. Into next battle, can see a Xerneas in the lead, so this is great for us. This is definitely where we want to see it, although of course they do have close combat for coverage, which makes it not the most comfortable matchup for us, but either way, gonna fire off a double Iron Bash before they throw their first charge move. And at this point I was thinking maybe they're going to farm up to back-to-back charge moves before throwing, but they go for the close combat. They then swap into a Thunderous, so we're going to come in with our Tyrantrum, and I have used Thunderous before in the Ultra League. I know this thing has Focus Bar, so I'm definitely going to respect the damage. Unfortunately, they do bait with a Wild Bolt Storm. However, we can just boost up our attack once again, fire off the Meteor Beam. Meteor Beam is going to be shielded by the opponent. That's okay, I'm going to double shield here, and the opponent does full send the Focus Blast, so this time we can just go for the full Dragon Tail farm down. However, the opponent is one away from another close combat, so whilst Tyrantrum did actually take out a Pokemon this time, it only makes it to one charge move, which is really annoying. But we're actually going to come in with Gyarados. I thought they'd probably just swap out straight away since they debuff themselves. They probably want to clear it, however they don't, they stay in, and now we're going to take them out with the Aquatail, with our Gyarados, and they come in with Yveltal. So we're going to fire off the Aquatail here. Aquatail is going to be no shielded by the opponent, and if they commit to farming up to back-to-back charge moves here, I will reach another Aquatail. I can now swap into my Melmetal, fire off a double Iron Bash. Double Iron Bash is going to not get the KO, but the opponent continues to overfarm, meaning double Iron Bash number 2 takes out Yveltal, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to opponent there. Into next battle, can see Palkia in the lead, so this is an okay matchup for us in the lead here. I'm just going to stay in this. I'll wait for them to throw if they want to throw, and the opponent is going to throw before I throw a superpower. The reason for this is because, of course, as I've mentioned a few times, superpower, I'm going to debuff my stats here, so I don't want to throw it before tanking an Aquatail. We're now going to throw the first one that does some decent damage, however, not really enough damage to get a KO with a second superpower. So now we're going to swap into Gyarados, and the opponent, I think, banks an Aquatail there before swapping into their Xerneas. So not really ideal for us here, but we do bait out the Fairy-type Pokemon. Hopefully, they're not running double Fairy. At this point, because I wasn't really looking at the CPs in the previous battles here, I let that go through thinking we tank it very comfortably. However, it does kind of put us into Geomancy farm down range, but we can go for an Aquatail here, and we will reach another Aquatail before the opponent makes it to, well, before they get the full farm down there. So Aquatail is going to grab a shield. I then swap back into my Melmetal, just because they were going to farm me down anyways. I'm going to sacrifice the Melmetal here. They go for a close combat. We're going to come in with our Tyrantrum. The opponent probably going to clear the debuff, but they swap into Palkia, and they're not able to fire off the charge move. But again, another matchup where if I was running Crunch going to hit for double super effective damage in this matchup. It would be such a comfortable matchup for us, but unfortunately, because I've only got Meteor Beam as our cheapest energy charge move, whilst I should be able to make it to back-to-back Meteor Beams in this matchup, the opponent will actually be able to swap out of this matchup here before I'm able to fire off the next charge move, and unless I'm able to predict that swap, unfortunately, they do have the charge move banked. Of course, close combat gets the KO, and unfortunately, we do lose that game. So GG to opponent there, another battle, another disappointing display from Tyrantrum, but into the next battle, going to see a Tapu Bulu in the lead. So this is great for us. The opponent's going to say swap into Kyogre, so once again, going to chip with a superpower, and then come in with my Gyarados. You could argue that I don't really need to chip there, but either way, we're going to swap. We try to catch a Surf, it doesn't work out this time around. I might have been too early there, but either way, we're going to shield. The opponent baits with a Surf here, so at this point, honestly, I don't know when they're going to make it to a Thunder, so I'm just going to play it safe, fire off the Crunch here. Crunch will get the KO, and if they come back in with the Tapu Bulu, they're still going to have to fire off a charge move here. These Bullet Seeds, they're not doing much damage, and whilst they do resist everything, they can't really overfarm too much because even these Dragon Breaths are kind of chunking. These Aquatails will add up over time. So Aquatail number 2 is going to get them deep into the yellow health range. They're going to fire off a charge move here, but that's absolutely okay. The opponent goes for the Nature's Madness and actually doesn't get the KO there. I'm not sure if they undercharged it. I think they must have done there because it really did not do much damage, but Aquatail is going to grab a shield from the Tapu Bulu. So this point we come in with the Melmetal, should resist everything. The opponent actually goes for a Mega Horn, which is really confusing. Like, I can't really think of why you'd run Mega Horn. I guess up against Mewtwo it'd be pretty good, but otherwise, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. But we're going to swap. We bank a Charge Move on our Melmetal. We're going to come in with the Tyrantrum, of course. Going to shield this up here. And in this situation, it doesn't really matter that we don't have Crunch because I just full send a Meteor Beam anyways, because Meteor Beam should be grabbing the final shield. It's also going to boost up my Dragon Tail damage, meaning the opponent has to throw their Charge Move pretty much straight away. Otherwise, they're going to take too much damage here. We can come back in with the Melmetal. We're one Thundershock away from the Superpower. We throw it immediately, and Superpower gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's up there. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Melmetal into Ho-Oh once again. So once again, going to swap into our Gyarados here, and I will look to throw that Arctotail straight away. And unfortunately gets caught in my Primarina, which, I mean, to be honest, it doesn't really make a difference here. If I went for Crunch, that would also be resisted. So yeah, just not really great for us so far. But either way, going to fire off another Arctotail here. And if the opponent commits to a full Charm Farm down, I might make it to a third Arctotail, which would get the Primarina very low, to the point where actually Melmetal could come in and just Thundershock farm them down. So the opponent actually uses a shield there, which I'm absolutely fine with. So we're going to come in with the Melmetal, and I think I make a bit of a mistake here. They fire off the Hydro Cannon. I'm going to fire off a double Iron Bash straight away because I didn't want to take too much damage. But maybe what I should have done is actually just commit to a full Thundershock farm down. That way I wouldn't reveal that I'm not on Rock Slide, and maybe could have grabbed the final shield from this Ho-Oh. However, the opponent is going to swap into Kyogre after debuffing my attack. We do tank that Sacred Fire incredibly well because, of course, we do double resist it. However, now because we're debuffed in our attack, that Meteor Beam just doesn't do that much damage. We would have been able to farm them down otherwise, and honestly, Tyrantrum with 2 shields, even with minimal HP, could have swept that Ho-Oh if they didn't debuff me there, which is really unfortunate, but unfortunately they did debuff me. We can shield there, go for the farm down, but we've only got resisted charge moves to throw, so I'm going to fire off the double Iron Bash. Double Iron Bash is no shielded by the Ho-Oh. We're going to fire off another one anyways, just to try and make it look like it was close. We've got the final shield, and we're going to go for a Superpower here. Couldn't rely on the new mechanic. Superpower doesn't do much damage, and unfortunately we get Incinerate farmed down by the Ho-Oh, and we lose that game. So GG top over there. I think I faced 3 Ho-Oh with this team and I lost to 2 of them, so that's great. Like Tyrantrum, literally his whole job was to beat Ho-Oh and we only beat 1 of 3, so that's pretty shocking. Either way, we are going to see a Dialga in the lead. We are going to stay in here, and again we debuff ourselves. They shield the first one, so they should be able to live the next 2 superpowers fairly comfortably. We are going to fire off this one, and now they should be able to live the next one as well. So we are going to swap into our Gyarados after this, looking for the snipe with the Dragon Breath damage, and we do get that snipe, which is very nice. They're now going to come in with a Kyogre, so at this point this is looking pretty good for us. We can fire off the Crunch here. Crunch is not going to do much damage, however it is going to not drop their defense either, so not really ideal, but I'm just going to shield this. I'm going to play it safe. We've got 2 shields. They're probably going to bait. No, never mind. They actually full send the Thunder there. So that means I can now overfarm quite considerably, and I can get away with just firing off an Arctotail, because from this range, Arctotail is actually going to get the shield there, and they swap into Necrozma. So at this point, we're going to fire off a Crunch here, and we're not running Crunch on Tyrantrum, but it shouldn't matter. This time we should be in the clear. All we need to do is make it to a Meteor Beam. So I'm going to play it safe, use my shield. They do bait with a Dark Pulse. Doesn't really make a difference here. We're going to fire off the Meteor Beam, and Meteor Beam, despite being resisted damage, will get the KO up against Necrozma. They come back in with the Kyogre, and we might even live this if it is a Surf, and it is a Surf. Tyrantrum just barely hangs on, and we're able to take that game. So GG's up into the final battle. We're going to see a Gyarados in the lead. So we are going to stay in this matchup here. Obviously, Thundershock's dealing double super effective damage. We've only got resisted charge moves to throw. So what I might do is actually swap out eventually. They do debuff me with a Crunch, which isn't ideal. We're going to farm up to very close to 100 energy, then swap into my Gyarados, take the charge move here as they go for another Crunch, and we will overfarm, eventually throwing an Arctotail. Maybe we should have thrown 1 charge move with our Melmetal. Maybe we could have even grabbed a shield, but either way, we're going to see Necrozma coming in, so I'm going to fire off a Crunch here, and I'm really hoping I can make it to another charge move. The opponent is going to shield. We do get the debuff there, but unfortunately we go down as we reach the Arctotail there, which is really painful. I'm going to come in with Melmetal. I actually bait here, which I don't really know why I did this. Well, actually, I'll tell you why, because the opponent did not throw straight away, and I should be able to tank any move here before I debuff myself, so that's why I went for the double Iron Bash. We now go for superpower, dealing decent damage, but they swap into a Groudon now. Again, Tyrantrum does have a 2-to-1 shield advantage, and we do double resist the fire punches, so the opponent gonna have to full send a Precipice Blades to get the KO here. So we get a shield, the opponent does full send it, so we might have some play here, but again, this is a matchup where if I was just running Crunch, it would be so much easier for us. So we go for a Meteor Beam, boosting up our attack. However, the switch clock will be coming up very soon for the opponent. I have to double shield here, they go for Precipice Blades, and they're able to swap back into their Necrozma, go for a Dark Pulse gets the KO. I need to commit to a full Thunder Shock farm down, however, we don't get the farm down, they farm me down, and unfortunately we do lose that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.